can stop.
Kayla, would you allow me to do video? Your computer is stopping me from getting on video.
Okay, we're on the record. I'd like to open this hearing or meeting. You all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call.
Councillor Kane?
Here.
Councillor Fellows?
Here.
Councillor Keller?
Here.
Councillor Larochelle?
Here.
Councillor Lunt?
Here.
Councillor Moore?
Here.
Councillor Robichaud?
Here.
Okay.
All right. First item.
First item is audience participation and response for agenda items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues on the agenda. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record.
Seeing no one. Next item.
Next item, Council Orders. Council Order 2023-44, the Municipal Budget, Continuous Improvement Plan, and Sewer Presentation and Department Goals.
All right, I'll open that.
Is it open for discussion, or do I just kick it off?
Just kick it off.
All right. So we're here tonight to present you with the FY24 municipal budget. I'm just going to read a short statement, and then I'm going to kick it over to Kayla. I'm pleased to present the FY24 municipal and wastewater expenditure budgets for your review and consideration. This budget is the result of hard work and careful consideration to ensure that the operational and capital needs are met while maintaining the same level of service that the town of Lisbon has always provided to its residents. As we move past the COVID-19 pandemic, we've emerged into a drastically different economic environment with rising inflationary pressures and the need to provide a more competitive wage to recruit and retain staff. Year-over-year inflation has been increasing, reaching an average of 7% in 2021 and 6.5% in 2022. We're also facing increases in solid waste hauling for biosolids and residential household trash, increases in insurance premiums, and employee health care costs. Our department heads have worked diligently to develop a lean, structurally balanced budget that will continue to provide the same level of service that our residents have come to expect. And we understand that our residents are experiencing the same inflationary pressures that we are. And we have worked hard to ensure that any increases in spending have been done sensibly and with the best interest of our taxpayers in mind. We're also pleased that the Codes Department and Clerk's Office will be automating agenda management and making construction permits available online for the first time. This initiative is designed to increase transparency and make the user experience for residents more friendly and reduce trips to the town office, as these services will now be available online. We strive to provide our residents with top-notch services and are committed to continuously evaluating new technologies to enhance service delivery and reduce costs. In addition, we're looking into budgeting for fleet management and work order software for public works. This will help us better track assets, depreciation, calculate road salt usage more accurately, manage our fleet, and push work orders to the highway department digitally without relying on antiquated and expensive radio equipment and repeaters. This is my first budget for the town of Lisbon as their new town manager, and I would like to express my sincerest appreciation and the support of the council for their involvement in the development of this budget and your continued involvement as we work towards fine-tuning it this weekend. I'm also grateful for the hard work of all my department heads and staff, and finally I look forward to working together with you to meet the goals and needs of the town of Lisbon's citizens and employees. And to you, Kayla.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Thank you, Glenn. Tonight we are presenting the 2024 budget. And I'd just like to begin, for those that are listening, to just highlight some great things about our town. Town of Lisbon is the third largest community in Androscoggin County. Based on the 2020 census, we are at approximately 9,711 residents which we like to say is just right around that 10,000 barrier. Our town is growing. And as that, I'd like to highlight the budget components. The proposed managerial budget here tonight for fiscal year 2024 is projected expenditures and revenues on an organizational level, and each organizational level includes multiple departments within the town of Lisbon. Organizational levels within the general fund are general government, which include offices such as assessor, finance, tax, codes, etc. Health and welfare, which includes your general assistants and your health officer. Public safety, which includes your police, your ACO, your communication center, your fire department, and your emergency management. Public works. Culture and recreation, which includes your parks and recreation, your library, and your other public services. Economic development. And intergovernmental. Intergovernmental is what is included in PSAP and county. Other organizational levels include the debt service, which is a separate fund, and the sewer, which is also a separate fund. Town services. As mentioned above, through all of those organizational levels, there are a multitude of services that are provided by the town of Lisbon. And here are just highlights of those in each of those departments. Fiscal year 24 budget challenges. The adopted fiscal year 23 budget has shown improvements to the town's employee retention and recruitment challenges during last year's budget process. The town has been able to fill vacant positions and to create new positions for our growing town. From a recruitment standpoint, the town is in a much better position than this time last year. Employee retention is still listed as a current challenge as we continue to navigate through these high inflationary times that are driving the cost of living up significantly. On January 1st, 2023, the state minimum wage went up to $13.80 per hour. With the increase to the minimum wage, we need to consider the latter effects that it creates. During fiscal year 24, it is recommended to revisit the pay scale structure after another anticipated increase to the minimum wage, which we are looking at January 2024. And from that, it will give us a good baseline moving forward. Cost of groceries are up 15%, and the housing market continues to be a seller's market, driving up the selling prices of houses. Other uncontrollable costs that were built into this budget presentation are health insurance, which is expecting a 10% increase per the Health Trust effective January 1st, 2024. Our buildings are getting older, and with that, insurance costs are increasing. I'm looking at approximately a 15% increase on insurance. Lastly, electricity has been a discussion topic as the supplier for CMP is showing significant price increases across the board. And we still experience supply and demand constraints as a result of COVID-19. Manufacturing timelines are still kind of drawn out more so than we would like, and we're still seeing about a 5 to 7% increase on price of goods. With our challenges, we'd like to present some solutions. Our solutions are the incremental 3 fiscal years. This is the second year in the 2-year incremental salary and wage increase from the fiscal year 22 pay study that was conducted from a third party. This presented budget is representative of the final 1/3 offset that was discussed during last year's budget process. Next year's budget, fiscal year 25, will show a 100% impact on the operating budget from a tax perspective. A 3% cost of living adjustment is reflected in this proposed budget for all full-time and permanent part-time employees. A lean capital improvement year is built into this proposed budget. A suggestion from the finance office is not to use fund balance in fiscal year 24 other than as a factor of the final offset to the pay study on a balance sheet level of accounting, and to build back the fund balance over the next 2 fiscal years as we are seeing, as mentioned, our buildings are getting older, and so to create that nest with the fund balance. Our budget presented here tonight, we had reached out to the department heads at the end of December, and they were given spreadsheets with their year-to-date actuals with a comparison to the current year's budget. Each department was asked to provide a spreadsheet for their upcoming budget requests, all whilst taking into consideration what their current budget budget numbers are displaying. After individual meetings with department heads and senior management, a managerial budget is derived. And this managerial budget here tonight is going to compare what we're presenting for 2024 to what was adopted in 2023. The 2023 adopted general fund, which is excluding county tax debt in school, was a $10,945,435 budget. The proposed budget, excluding county tax debt in school, is $12,129,523, which is a $1,184,088 increase, or 10.82%. As noted below, the 2024 county tax has increased $84,258, or 10.08% from fiscal year 23. In addition to that, our debt service has also increased from the prior fiscal year due to the Ferry Road reconstruction bond coming due with principal and interest in fiscal year 24, and in addition to our other outstanding debt, total of $738,126, which is a $208,924 increase, or just about 39.4%. The sewer budget is looking at a $23,314, or 1.71% decrease. They had a adopted budget of $1,360,312, and the proposed budget here tonight is $1,336,998. That's largely due to the Vector lease being paid in full in fiscal year 23. For salaries and benefits, if we take that whole proposed managerial budget, 62% of that budget is attributable to salaries and benefits. So $7,512,265 for the general fund and 38.8% for the sewer, or $529,904.
That's different from our documents. Is that
Thank you. So there was a change today for the sewer department, and that is because the sewer department had hired a new operator today. And based on that hire, I was able to adjust based on the wage and benefit package that was discussed during the hiring process. So I will provide the updated numbers electronically to you. I just want to thank you for pointing that out.
That's fine,
I
sure.
wanted to have it in the presentation tonight. It was kind of like a in the moment.
I got you.
Here we go.
No problem.
So what are the impacts and expenditures? We look at it on an organizational level, as noted below previously. Our total, all in, all departments, county tax, is $20,769,940. Now that is also including the school, which was presented last week. And we add in the debt service of $738,126. That gives us a total of $21,508,066, which is a 7.18% increase from the prior fiscal year adopted budget. Based on the prior fiscal year's adopted budget of the 3-year incremental salary and wage pay study that was conducted, last year's increase to salaries and benefits per that study was $1,415,828, and last year's offset was $943,885.33. So the final offset to be taken in this fiscal year is $471,942.67. With that offset, in comparison to last year's budget, we're looking at a 5.07% increase. The pie chart is showing you what the proposed budget is broken out on the general fund level, and that general fund level is broken by those organizational. So 49% is our general government, which are all of the departments that are held in this town office building, excluding the police department, which is within the public safety organization. And then 21% of that is public safety, 17% is public works. So last item on this slide to note is that based on the dollar increase and the final offset, all in total budget we're getting to a 8.03% increase in this proposed budget. I'd like to talk about revenues tonight. I'm very happy to say that the state of Maine has put up their state revenue sharing as of March 6th. I think I refreshed that so many times that it almost appeared like magic. So what is included in general government revenue? Well, this includes motor vehicle excise tax revenue, boat excise taxes, state revenue sharing, homestead exemptions, and Betty reimbursements from the state. It also includes revenue from some departments such as planning board, clerk, code enforcement, and under health and welfare or general assistance, we have general assistance that is reimbursed at 70% of our general assistance expenditures. Public safety revenue is sourced from the following departments: police, fire, ACO, and communication center. For ACO, we contract with Durham, Sabattis, and Bowdoin. And they pay for a portion based on a formula of per capita and per calls for ACO services. Public Works revenue comes from the transfer station, and that's from those transfer station stickers. And Culture and Recreation revenue comes from the Library Department and the Parks and Recreation Department, where the Parks and Recreation Department is largely from their summer camp programs. So the chart here is showing revenue sharing. And this is revenue sharing from fiscal year 20. Of note here, I'd like to keep it within these lovely COVID years, because to compare prior to COVID, it really isn't the world that we live in, and I don't really see us going back to that pre-COVID very soon. I think this is our new normal. So fiscal year 20, we had $928,533.22 of state revenue sharing. As you can see, there has been a steady increase in those COVID years, fiscal year 20, 21, 22, and 23. As you can see in fiscal year 24, from the projected state revenue sharing statistics, we're going to start to see that plateau. We're going to start to see it tilt into a nice constant line graph. And the only way that I envision that going back up is if our population increases past that 10,000 marker. The fiscal year 24 state revenue sharing is scheduled for $2,220,323.03. On a comparison level, the 23 adopted general fund revenues were $4,794,415. The 2024 managerial revenues are being projected at $5,080,355, which is a $285,940 increase from fiscal year 23, or 5.96%. A lot of that is attributable to motor vehicle excise taxes. Motor vehicle excise taxes we have seen increase during these COVID years. And in this pie chart or line chart, bar graph, you can see that the blue is our actual and our green is our budgeted. So each year we are consistently showing that we are bringing in more than what we had anticipated, and a lot of that is new to town residents and new vehicles being purchased. Fiscal year 24, I'm projecting a $200,000 increase on those excise taxes just based on a 3-year average on a trend analysis that we're seeing. And then on the left side is our revenue sharing comparison, which you can see has steadily increased, but as noted previously, I do expect that to plateau. So what is the budget net effect? We've talked about expenses, we've talked about revenues. So the net effect here, the 2024 managerial general fund budget, excluding county tax, debt, and school, is $12,129,523. The managerial other revenues of $5,080,355 is giving us a net difference of $7,049,168. Increase expense budget after the offset, $969,339.33, an increase to revenue of $285,940 is giving us a net effect of $683,399. I had put a historical line graph here of the mill rate over the past 4 fiscal years. So based on that net effect and based on our current tax revenue and our current mill rate, that would be approximately a mill. Based on my calculation, 603,000 and change is approximately 1 mill. The mill rate over the past 5 years has shown these dips and peaks. So the goal in this budget is to alleviate those dips and peaks and try to achieve a more constant, so that way when those increases do happen or those decreases do happen, you're not having that large impact. So the mill rate on a pie chart, our mill rate is broken down into school, municipal, and county. So fiscal year 23's mill rate breakdown, county is $1.29, municipal is $9.87, and school is $11.94 for your total of $23.10 on a valuation basis. Now, speaking about valuation, all of this is also contingent on the valuations of the town. That's my last piece of my equation here, which I won't know right now. But based on what we're looking at, the valuation in this town is growing. The town is growing. And that is why I believe that this projected budget will be about 1 mil. The summary breakdown on a dollar and percentage level for the school general fund, which includes all departments, county, and debt service, 35.78% for school, 56.40% for general fund, 4.39% for county, and 3.43% for debt service. Now, with all that said, that is our general fund. And this budget presentation also includes our other funds, which is our sewer fund and our debt service fund. Our sewer fund functions as an enterprise fund, which means they bring in their own revenue and it's contingent upon their rates, and so therefore it is not contingent upon the tax increase. The FY24 managerial budget request in comparison to the 23 adopted budget for the sewer department was $1,497,120 for revenues. He's projecting $1,560,302 for fiscal year 24, which is a $63,182 increase. And that percentage there is reflective of the rate increase that the sewer department will be looking at. They're looking at a 4% residential increase on rates. And so if we look at the sewer fund on an expense revenue basis, he is actually bringing in $223,304 surplus of the expenditures. And again, he functions as an enterprise fund because of that. The other fund is the debt service, and we touched upon that at the beginning, where we're having an increase in our debt service largely because of the ferry road coming due for principal in 24, and that will be principal and interest payments over a 15-year term of $738,126. I have included here our fund balance policy, and based on our charter for our fund balance, the town is to maintain an unassigned general fund balance of no less than 12%. So I wanted to highlight that here, and I wanted to also tie that into the recommendation and the budget as a presentation of a lean capital year. And with that, this is a start of our capital improvement presentation. Just to note, the Capital Improvement Plan is a document that focuses on the implementation of community goals through detailed recommendations on capital spending and needs for the current and forecasted fiscal years. The CIP to be submitted to the Council is to be broken down by town and presented here on a department level. per charter, we are to present a 5-year plan. In addition to that, we present a 10-year model to kind of big picture what we're looking at down the road. The CIP demonstrates specific projects, amounts of those projects, and the sources of funding for those projects. This document is a framework for making the best use of financial resources. Within the CIP report, a section of footnotes follows immediately after the department's request. These footnotes go into more depth about the capital items being requested in the upcoming fiscal year. This document is also fluid. We look at the upcoming projected budget and how that funding source impacts on an operating level or on an other funding source level. But those other years can be deemed as fluid. If we approach a new year and we again say we're looking at another lean capital year, then we can move around items, but we don't want to move around items that still have high maintenance costs, because the question has to be asked, at what point is that capital asset past its useful life, and at what point is that capital asset costing more money to maintain than it would to replace? So with that, I've also included the debt structure of bonds and leases to help look at where we are on a debt level and where we are looking ahead. So the town of Lisbon has submitted the 5-year CIP, and for fiscal year 24, we're looking at a $3,155,523. Now, most of that is with the sewer department. So I don't want to sound contradictory with the lean year, because $2,165,000 is the treatment plant, and as noted previously, the treatment plant brings in his own revenue based on rates to support his expenditures. So what the town is really looking at is that $3.1 million less the $2.1 million from the sewer plants. And then this is our 10-year. So if we're looking at the 5-year, we're looking to see a few leaner years ahead. We're looking at 24, 25, and 26, with 27 of that anticipated building large expenditure, and then 28 to go back down. And again, this document is fluid, where our needs can outweigh in each area of where we should land. And with all of that said, it's really important to look at our debt. So in this upcoming fiscal year, we're looking at that $700,000 figure for debt service, where a large part of that, as mentioned, is that Ferry Road. And then down below is the RD loan is coming out of the sewer revenue. His rate increases over the past several years have been getting him ready to start paying back that loan. That RD loan was closed in November of 2023. So we should be expecting a principal and interest payment in fiscal year 2024. The other proposed is the Harley-Davidson, which I will get to in the next section of items for the police department, and that would be looking at a lease agreement. And then the 10-year. And as you can see, over the 10-year span, we're reducing our debt significantly. And per the state of Maine, we can only hold 7.5% of debt per our valuation of our town. And per our town, we actually go one step further and require 5% of that valuation. So with all of this said, I can proudly say that we are within that 5%. We have somewhere around $16 million left in that debt structure based on the most recent valuation.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Now, does those numbers actually include the water department's debt service and with ours? Because it does all come into that same piece of pie, right? Does that fall under one of those?
That is a good question. This tonight does not include the water department as presented, but as I mentioned, of that 16 million that's still available based on the most recent valuation, that does include the water department's portion.
But do we actually hold debt service right now for the water department for the Route 9, or is that actually been, I was just curious if there's some of this actually does fall into the water department's.
Yeah, so the 2010R as listed there, we split with the water department. I believe it's a 52-48 split. And then the water department also has two 2005 bonds, a 2014 bond, and a 2020 bond.
The one that they're actually proposing for this year is not calculated because it's not been.
It's not currently calculated because that process is still ongoing, but as this budget process continues up until the June election, we will fold it in.
Okay. I'm just curious. I didn't see it. It wasn't listed out separately, so I was just curious.
That's a good question. Thank you. So with all of that, I'd like to give our fiscal year 24 CIP highlights per department. The police department, the PD cruiser replacement plan replaces 2 cruisers in this proposed budget, which is funding sourced through the operating budget. Police laptops are funding through the technology budget, and the K-9 and equipment is we're also looking at bringing the K-9 program back, and that funding is through the operating budget. Harley-Davidson is also looking as a program to be brought back, and with that is equipment and training with a funding source of a lease that is now tentatively in that debt service fund and will be adjusted once we go through that process and get more accurate numbers on that. The fire department, the chief's car number 1, that funding source is through the fire truck reserve account. Turnout gear, it's annually scheduled, funded source through the municipal budget. Thermal imaging cameras, funded through the municipal budget. Portable and vehicle radios, funded through the municipal budget. Parks and recreation, a stand-up Exmark mower, Summer Street dog parking, Summer Street dog park fence, and a commercial combo sander salt spreader. Public Works, a plow truck with the gear and the plow to outfit the plow truck, funding source through the municipal budget. A loader, and that funding is going to be through a capital lease. Right now, we are renting the loader to help us through the winter season, and that payment of that rent is going to reduce the price of that loader, which would look like a traditional capital lease agreement. Sidewalks funded through the municipal budget, and guardrails funded through the municipal budget. Town buildings, we're looking at an HVAC update improvement, and the funding here is going to be split between ARPA funds and municipal budget. MTM bathrooms, funding through ARPA. Library egress, funding through ARPA. Front counter construction to make it more ADA compliant, funding through municipal budget. Treatment plant, I apologize for how I'm going to read those. The GEA centrifuge, funding through RD grant and fund balance. The GE centrifuge major service, funding through operating budget. Aeration tank concrete rehab, funding through operating budget. Brook Street Pump Station, funding through RD grants, and the Burger Rotary Lobe Pump, funding through operating budget. Technology, we're looking at approximately 18 workstations in fiscal year 24 as part of our annual update to our technology. We're also looking at police department laptops and some counselor surfaces. The other item through the technology budget will be retrofitting this meeting room and then the 2 adjacent rooms for sound fitting. That will also kind of promote us through these webinar series, so that way you can better hear some of these meetings. Office admin, continuation of our clerk records restoration project, and our revaluation. We had started setting money aside in fiscal year 22 for our revaluation. We were looking at a 10-year outward of that reval. So we're looking somewhere around fiscal year 31 to do a town-wide revaluation. which at that time of fiscal year 22, we're approximating $300,000 to do that project, and we're setting aside $30,000 each year, and I still believe that that is on track. I think that that would run around that cost. And that concludes our presentation for the proposed managerial budget on an expenditure and revenue level and for our capital improvement plan. And at this time, I can take any questions.
Very informative. I mean, it's a nice layout. I like that compared to years past. It definitely gives you all the information in a short period of time, and not so much the nuts and bolts, but definitely the overview gives you a good idea where we're at. So,
Thank you.
great. Thank you.
I have a question if I could. Kayla, you sent out a very detailed budget thing electronically. Is that what you gave out in paper today?
Yes, it is. And then tomorrow I'll be sending out all of the individualized narratives and individualized spreadsheets and comparatives for previous fiscal year budget to actuals. I have to zip them all in order for them to go through the email. So keep an eye out tomorrow for that.
Well, what I was saying is what I have, some of the figures, the budget figures, I think you already said, aren't the same as what you presented tonight.
Yeah, there was a few changes today that I wanted to make sure that I highlighted in this presentation, but I can send updated numbers via email.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I have what everybody else has on Saturday.
Yes.
So our
And
start.
also, sorry.
Keep going, Don.
I was just going to say, technology-wise, that struck me pretty obviously. I've been experiencing various technology abilities and lack of abilities throughout this year. I just attended a water department Zoom meeting where Alan was remote, the manager was remote, and everybody else was doing it the laptop in the office, and it kind of worked. In technology-wise, when I speak here, I can hear Kayla or anybody that's on the microphone, but right now, when you guys speak, I hear them. There's a pretty good reverberation in it, so I'm all in favor of seeing if we can't get a better take on electronics for this room.
Is that it, Don?
I'll shut up.
So our starting point is a 1 mil increase.
That is correct.
We can only go down from there.
That is correct. So the other part of the equation, as I noted previously, are the valuations of the town. So when I pull into my big tax calculation, I put in expenditures, I put other revenues, I put TIF, and then the other piece comes from the assessing department for that valuation on a personal property and on a real estate level. So if those valuations do go up, then bottom line will go down.
So the 1 mil will go.
There's
Conceivably
potential
go
that
down.
it could conceivably go down.
Okay. This is a good starting point.
If any other questions? I think that process starts on April 1st too, so as it goes on, we'll have better revenue numbers probably closer to June adoption, so.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also note that in your packets, as I mentioned, the process really starts in December with talking with the department heads. And the initial budget that was presented to management, we were much higher. And through that process, we cut $729,700. So we cut just over a mil, close to $1.5 million in this process. So we did go down.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes,
So, come Saturday, what does the day look like? I mean, are we going through each department basically one by one, just going through line for line of their operations and their budget? And
So this is a new process, as I understand, for you all too. This only was implemented in the last 2 years. it's a really familiar process for me. This is how I've always done budgets, but as I go into the expense workshop, department heads will hit the high notes with their narratives. Generally, we'll have the line-by-line expense in front of us. Usually the questions from council and staff are on things that are variances. Why is this going up? Why is this going down? Usually if it's flat, we'll kind of keep moving through it unless you have a specific question. Well, why didn't this go up? But so it's really your opportunity to kind of
dig in a little bit,
let the department heads talk about their vision for the department, why they made certain decisions, or why they have to, why expenses are going up or down, and generally, is well received. Public usually likes the level of transparency, and it kind of lets you guys get more insight into the operational level of the department. So I guess it'll be as long as we want it to be, but we'll hopefully get through it by 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah. I think it's just important sometimes when you get in the budget, as you mentioned. I mean, a good portion of the budget is personnel, right? So, I mean, going into a budget, especially if people are not familiar with it, is just understanding the stuff we really have no control over, right? Which is the lion's share of it. It's just a small percentage that really is, do you or don't you, right? So, I guess that's the biggest thing. And the capital plan is one of the real ones. So I think there's more detailed explanation of why we need particular items. But again, that's just my thought on it. Hopefully the day should go pretty smoothly because I think it's laid out pretty well. So.
Yeah, and generally when I've seen the meetings broken up like that, we go weeks between each meeting and you kind of forget and we have to revisit and rehash. So we'll spend a lot of time on Saturday, but it'll all be fresh. We'll be working through it in real time. So
I'm excited to try it. I mean, it's something different. I would never thought of it in the
we'll never do
past,
this
but
again.
Actually just all bunker down and actually get all the information and have everybody in the same room, so we're not actually just kind of beating stuff back and forth. I think it's going to be a good exercise, if nothing else.
I'll look forward to it.
And if I could, I would just like to thank the council and thank Glenn and thank all the department heads. The town of Lisbon is very fortunate to have an exceptional staff and provide exceptional services to their residents. And as this is my last budget presentation for the town of Lisbon, I humbly thank you all.
Well, the feeling's mutual, and we don't want you to go, but
We do have an open door policy. We always welcome people back, so
open door.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla. You've made this process, very familiar and easy for me. And what started as a very intimidating task, being a new town manager on the job for 4 months, this is really the staff has made this, a comfortable, familiar process. And with their support, this is really, where you shine. You love doing this, so this is like kind of a bonus that she gets to present to you before she leaves.
Yeah. Nothing better
Her favorite thing to
right?
do.
It was well done, so thank you.
Thank you.
Very well.
Our loss is Kennebug's gain, that's for sure.
So we just say breakfast was at what time? 6?
So lunch will be catered by Grazi to go. We will have penne, meatballs, and salad, and maybe one other thing. And that's lunch.
Start time is
9 o'clock or 9:30?
9:30.
Okay.
Was it 9:30?
I thought it was 9:30.
9:30?
I have to pull up the schedule.
be here for 9 and
Yeah.
we'll get rolling.
Breakfast.
Breakfast, that's right.
That one's on Harry.
Pop-Tarts.
That's all I mean.
Pop-Tarts.
Harry's bringing breakfast.
Bring me a hot plate. I'll make bacon and eggs.
Bringing dry Cheerios.
That's the best. That's my favorite.
I eat them every day.
Well, the
So what time are you breaking for lunch?
I,
So I know.
I think it's scheduled for 12, but depending on whether we're ahead or behind schedule, we'll kind of let the meeting kind of dictate when we break. But I don't want to keep department heads hanging too long either if they're.
Mr. Chair, are we doing the same approach? Are we actually bringing up all the departments up on the screen, or is this more of a verbal follow through? Or
We'll have the spreadsheets up on the screen so we can work through them because we're going to take notes too if we have to go back and fine tune something or
Nice.
kind of work from those.
Because I did like that tonight. I mean, it gives an opportunity to sit back and see it, and sometimes flipping through pages, it's by the time you find where you want to be, you're halfway through the presentation. And
it was
so-
a really good job, for sure.
It's nice too because before we had Zoom and we would do these, you'd all have your laptops up and you'd all be on different tabs.
Right.
Yeah.
So the screen helps us kind of stay on the same
Yeah,
budget, so
stays
people
on
aren't
task.
flipping ahead to the next one.
Yeah.
So.
And if you have a question, you're looking at the same paper. In past years, we've actually got updated budget forms, and you're looking through, and you're seeing the different numbers. So I'm saying, well, my page, on page 382, line 5 is not what you're showing. So sometimes you spend time just trying to be all in the same information, but that actually makes it really straightforward. It's pretty hard to lose your place that way. It's nice.
So I won't need two computers then, because you're going to put it on the screen, the Zoom screen?
Yes.
I assume everything that everybody's looking for. Okay,
Perfect.
good, that's a help.
All right, next item?
Next item is other business, but I don't think there is any.
Nope.
Next, we have council communications.
Any communications from the council?
Just one item. I did go to the water department meeting tonight remotely. As I mentioned before, there were two commissioners in the room, and everybody else was out there somewhere. But on their agenda came up the proposed bond issue. And I understand that the water department very much looks forward to a session with the town council, I believe on the 21st. I haven't looked at the agenda, but it may be on there. Their ask is that one of their commissioners has a meeting that night, and he won't get here and probably till 7 or a little bit after. So their ask is that we go into executive session as close as we can to when that happens. So maybe not the beginning, maybe not the end. I realize that's not up to me, but that's their ask. And they are sending, or will send a note to Harry and to Glenn about that.
Wouldn't be going to executive session for discussion with their,
Not for the bond.
not for the bond, yeah.
There's a planned joint meeting with both of us, but we have to make the time work for the attorneys, and
Yeah,
she's out of town on the 21st, is my understanding, so we were going to push it to April.
okay.
So, but the bond thing is public.
Yeah.
It's an order that's on the agenda.
And
Yep.
executive session isn't necessary, I don't think.
No, not for the bond.
Couldn't anyway, so.
Anything else, Don?
No, that's it.
Next item?
Audience participation and response for new items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the lectern to address items or issues not on the agenda. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record.
Anybody want to talk about items not on the agenda?
I had questions for Kayla.
Go ahead.
Kevin Ridley, 19 Irene Street. Great job, Kayla. Thank you. A couple questions. I'm kind of a layman here, so I'm a little out of my element. How firm are the state numbers? It sounds like it's a done deal, that we're confident that those numbers the state gave you are good?
Yeah, as through the COVID years, they had tentatively given projections, and there were updates. But as we're starting to come out of those COVID years, I don't expect there to be an update to those projected
So
numbers.
you're confident that those are the real numbers? Good.
Yes.
Good news. Also, early on in the presentation, you mentioned something about replenishing the fund balance. What does that mean? I don't understand what that meant.
So at the end of each year, your revenues and your expenses close. And when they close, they go into fund balance on a balance sheet accounting level. And so we have to retain 12%, which is about 90 days worth of operations.
Okay.
So we take that out and we set it aside, and whatever's left we can use our fund balance for. And fund balance gets presented to the town council for a decision on how to use the fund balance.
Okay.
And it's a recommendation where we have seen the usage of fund balance for capital expenditures, and they've been stronger in certain fiscal years and lighter in other fiscal years.
Mhm.
So that way you can continue to boost that fund balance. So in case something were to happen, you have that to lean on.
So it's an operating kind of,
Yes.
Kind of like our savings accounts. We have our own personal, your regular checking, you have your savings account.
right.
And it'd be pretty much, in a sense, your savings account where you don't want to take the money out if you don't have to, but yet
Right.
it's there if you need it and it starts getting built to a good level. But
Okay.
and that's the only way I've ever
So-
thought of it.
So that balance is in need of replenishment, or it's not bad, we're in pretty good shape, or?
It's not bad. It's
Okay.
just based on there being some heavy capital years in the past fiscal years.
Mhm.
It's just my recommendation to kind of lighten it up so that way you're not burdening it down. So you don't consistently have heavy capital years.
Okay.
So that way you can boost it, and that way when you do need a heavier year for capital expenditures, you have that to
The
lean
money's
on.
available. Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other participation? Mr. McGee,
There he is.
for the agenda items?
Brian McGee, Chief of Police. It's not on the agenda, but I'd like to speak about this past storm that we had. I know we didn't get the snow like the rest of the New England got, but we did get some heavy snow, and we did have a lot of trees and power lines down. And I'd like to thank Jeff Kelly's business, Enterprise Electric, down in Capitol Ave. They helped us out in a big way. We had the community school that only had one phase of their power, and they had students, at the school, and they were able to quickly get out. And they also restored power really quickly to other roads in town, and that was pretty good of them. So I reached out to the owner, and he was able to make it happen so we could get the school up and going. So I just wanted to thank them. It's nice to have businesses in town that always step up to the plate. So that's it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Anybody else? Next item?
Next item is executive session, Order 2023-45, per 1 MRSA, Section 4056A, Personnel Matters.
Make a motion, we go into executive session.
I'll second. Roll call?
This is roll call vote. Counselor Kane,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
Yes.
Counselor Keller,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed. And it is 6:55. Turn off the camera.
All right.
And do you have to change off the live Zoom too? I mean, is
I
that,
just turned off the stream, but
they want to check outside? just to
Don,
make sure
can
we're-
I send you a different